Good evening, Helen, Chandramohan. Voice is feeble. No? So, anybody else have the problem with respect to voice? I mean, audio clear, right? Fine. Okay, fine. So we completed Northeast insurgency, right, yesterday? All right. So yesterday we discussed about. Good evening, Satya. All right. So yesterday we discussed about Northeast insurgency. We have seen what are the causes for it, the profile of Northeast, the causes, the state-specific issues, and the solutions we have seen. Like we made a comparison between left-wing extremism as well as Northeast insurgency also. All right. So this is what, and so today we are going to see a new topic actually. All right. So the major portions wherein like there is so much of possibility of asking the questions. You see all those things which we have discussed till now, all right, be it border management, be it left wing extremism, be it you see northeast insurgency, these are mostly within the country. It's not an issue which is outside the country, it's just within the country. And that is the reason why I said people like border management means people from the border states, they used to ask questions in an interview. And left wing extremism affected states, people coming from them, they used to ask the situational questions. Similar in northeast also. All right. So these are some internal issues. So right now we are going to discuss global issue, which is the topic which we're going to discuss today is money laundering. All right. So today, please write it down. So we're going to start with a new topic today. The topic is money laundering. All right. The topic today we're going to see is money laundering. See, what is basically simple meaning of money laundering? All right. The simple meaning of money laundering is just conversion of black money into white money. If you want to know in terms of layman, it is nothing but a conversion of black money to white money. They call it, but this is not a legal term. So white money, black money is not a legal term actually. Some of the laws we have lost black money, imposition of tax and all. Like all right, but technically speaking, there is nothing called white money. So what is this process of money laundering is where there is illegitimate money. It is turned as if it is legitimate. The source, which is illegitimate, illegal, it is made to be known to be made to be a legitimate source. Illegal, showing an illegal thing to be a legal one. So you have to understand first of all what is black money. No, only if you have black money, you can think about conversion into white money. So first of all, we have to know the sources. So what are the sources of black money in India? What are the sources of black money in India or anywhere like normally? So what are these illegal sources? I'll name a few sources. Mostly people, the politicians, they involve in corruption. That is also illegal money. Tax evasion, one of the major aspects. The money which comes from smuggling, smuggling of drugs, smuggling of goods, anything. The money, it may be even from say cyber frauds or cyber crimes. Right now, Harshit Mehta is very much famous because of the Scam 92 series. I guess most of you would have watched it. So even market manipulation, that is, so these are some of the sources in which people generate illegal money. You can say illegal gambling, because Why I say illegal gambling means gambling is legal in few states. That is the reason why. Gambling illegal in few states. All right. Fine. So this is what. So you have a lot of sources of black money, first of all. You have a lot of sources of black money. These are some of the sources. So thing is that I can't show these sources. Fine. So if the government asks where is the money came from, no, I'm a corrupt politician. I made this money out of corruption. Can you say that? I made huge money out of smuggling. Can you say that? Because you'll be caught. If it is corruption money, you'll be punished under Prevention of Corruption Act. If it is market manipulation, you'll be arrested under SEBI Act and IPC, Indian Penal Code. Cyber frauds, IT Act, lot of things are there. Smuggling, again, you have Narcotics Act, you have Immoral Trafficking Act, tax evasion under IT. So that is what you can't show that money and then say that like, no, this is my legitimate money. Or, okay, this is illegal money. I'm paying taxes. As long as I'm paying taxes, what is up to you? Again, even if you pay taxes, you'll be put in jail for the crime also. So that is what these are illegal, illegitimate source. So once I generate such money, I can't keep it because I'll be caught. And that is the reason why the moment I generate this money, I got to hide this proceeds. Or else I got to turn this as a legal source. That is what we're going to see today, how it is done. So money laundering is the conversion of black money into white money as such, or illegitimate source to a legitimate source, showing it to be a legitimate source. Now coming to the meaning or definition part. So what is the definition of money laundering? For the definition of money laundering, I'm going to refer the Prevention of Money Laundering Act of 2002. The PMLA Act, or the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. It discusses about, or it defines what is money laundering. Mostly money laundering is one of the least important topic, but mostly they ask in the interview or in that only. Till now, for the last 8 years, they've asked only once. So the approach has to be, you know, what is money laundering? We have to see what are the causes, what are the consequences, and the challenges, as yesterday I said, the issues. So that is what we're going to see, mostly from current affairs perspective, like that will be covered, but the basics of money laundering will cover today. It's one of the not so important, least important, I said, like only from the current affairs perspective, from interview perspective. In the money laundering aspects, the definition, please write it down. The 2002 definition of money laundering under the Act, please write down. Money laundering is any process or activity. Money laundering is any process or activity connected with proceeds of crime. It is any process or activity connected with proceeds of crime, including its concealment, possession, acquisition, or use and projecting or claiming it as untainted property. Or use and projecting or claiming it to be an untainted property. I'll repeat. Money laundering is any process or activity connected with the proceeds of a crime, including its concealment, possession, acquisition, or use, and projecting or claiming it as untainted property. So basic meaning is, first of all, as per the Indian definition of money laundering, even if you possess the laundered money, you'll be caught. If you conceal, try to hide, you'll be caught. If you try to show it as an untainted property also, you'll be caught. If you try to acquire some property or anything movable, immovable through that also, you'll be caught. That is what. So that is the reason why the moment you generate it, people tend to do in a process. So that is what we're going to see next actually. So in order to know how money is concealed or how money is shown to be untainted property, that is what we're going to see today, the process involved. So next we are going to see, after the definition, we are going to see the process. What are the processes involved in money laundering? What are the processes involved or steps involved in money laundering? How money laundering happens? Money laundering happens in 3 stages. One, it is called as placement, and the second, layering, and the third one is integration. So money laundering is a 3-stage process which involves 3 steps, that is placement, layering, and integration. They might be in the order also, they might be parallelly working out also. It's not necessarily in the order 1, 2, 3. Now we'll see what is placement. Placement means basically, what is the meaning of placement? First you can write what is placement, then I'll explain that. Write down placement. Placement is the process by which the illegal funds generated from criminal activities, is introduced into the financial system. It is introduced into the financial system. All right, I repeat. It is the process by which the illegal funds generated from criminal activities introduced into the financial systems. Fine. Now what happens? I'll give you an example what happened during times of demonetization. During demonetization, suddenly you see there was a surge in accounts of so many people. Now, people were having say 100 rupees, 1000 rupees. Suddenly they had lakhs. Why? What happened? I'll just now consider I have to be my money launderer right now. I had a lot of black money. I said this is for instance, I'm not really having a lot of black money. I'm a legal taxpayer. Now what happens? I generated, so for instance, I had say some 10 lakh amount out of that. 10 lakh is a very minimal amount, but still saying that. Now what I'm doing it, I'm asking my friends or students, okay, please 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You take 1 lakh each, deposit in your account. I'll get it back later on. All right, I give it to my servant, maid, driver, or whoever it is. So basically this is the first stage. You're introducing the black money into the system. It may be a financial system, banking system, whatever it is. Understand? This is what placement. Understand? So placement is, you're not concealing it, you're placing it right now. Because why you're placing it in the economy? So as to convert it. Okay, so this is the first stage. Now what is the second one? The second stage is layering. So write down what is layering. Layering is a stage of continuous conversion. Layering is a stage of continuous conversion or movements of funds within the financial system. See here, when I mention finance, it includes bank also, banking system also. Within the financial system, by way of numerous accounts, comma, so as to hide their true origin. So as to hide their true origin. And to distance them from the criminal source. So as to hide their true origin and to distance them from their criminal source. I repeat, it is a stage of continuous conversions or movements of fund within the financial system by way of numerous accounts so as to hide their true origin and to distance from their criminal source. So this is a stage of, like, you can say, you are kind of concealing, or you can say disguising the true ownership. All right. Now what you do, like what I do, I say, like, so I have some 10 lakh, right? What I used to do now, this 10 lakh, like 1 lakh I'm depositing, I'm asking my friends to deposit. 1 lakh I'm like buying gold. You know, after demonetization, most people went and bought gold, no? Is it not? That very day the sales is like, most of them, the gold market, like it is kind of, again, like informally, like they don't pay taxes, and then they used to do that, like they ask with or without bill, no? The most often heard, like especially if you're going for an this jewelry shops. All right, so why layering means, like, one more example for simple understanding, I'll give it to you. For instance, there is, say, from, I have 5 of my friends, 1 2 3 4 5. So I'm asking my friend 1 to deposit to in 2's account, from 2 to transfer to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. From 5 I'm asking him to buy a car, then after buying, selling the car, then again buying some property. So what is the meaning is, so as much as possible I am distancing the origin so that it is difficult to find it. That is called as layering. So as much as possible try to distance the origin so that it is very difficult to track, it is difficult to trace. This is what the meaning is. So this is what the meaning is, from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, like kind of thing. Or else different buying small, 1 lakh for property, 1 lakh for gold, 1 lakh for investing in something else, it may be. So frequently changing the property also, making them to deposit in different things also, any ways. So this is the purpose of layering. Understand? The third one is the integration. The third one is what? Integration. So what is the meaning of integration? Please write it down. Integration, it is a stage where the funds reach the legitimate economy. It is a stage where the funds reach the legitimate economy, comma, after getting inseparably mixed, comma, after getting inseparably mixed with the legitimate money earned through legal sources of income. Legitimate money earned through legal sources of income. I repeat, it is a stage where the funds reach the legitimate economy after getting inseparably mixed with the legitimate money earned through legal sources of income. So I said this is nothing but wherein, like, it is the legal as well as illegal sources mix each other. Now it is very difficult to track, as simple as that. Integration can be immediately done, or it may be after the layering also. Now, first of all, the interesting thing you should know that, like, how this name money laundering came into picture. It's all because of the laundromats, actually. So that is the reason why we call it as from white money, black money to white money. You see what these laundromats actually, in the USA, in America, actually what it happened, like all those people who generated a lot of money out of gambling, all right, out of those illegal things, they used to start laundromats. What is laundromats? Basically laundry. So they used to start laundromats and they used to create fake bills. And by creating the fake invoices, fake bills, they used to convert. That is what they called as money laundering. They used to wash, means what? They convert the illegal into legal thing. So the business would have not have happened, but what they would have shown that like, okay, fine, this laundromat has done a lot of things and a lot of customers, so by which it generated income. That is what the meaning of money laundering. It's basically based on the laundromats, laundry. So that is the reason we call it as conversion of black money into white money, dirty money into clean money. These are the stages involved. So these are the stages involved. So placement, layering, and integration. This might be overlapping also, maybe in the order also. This is the process involved. Placement, placing into the economy, layering, distancing the origin, integration, inseparably mixing the legal and illegal sources so that it's very difficult to find out. Understand? This is what. Now the other things you should know that like what are the steps or technique involved. As a part of these processes, there are several techniques involved, I can see. There are several techniques involved in it. So what are the techniques which are used as a part of these processes? I would like to mention a few things. Number one, I would like to mention something called as offshore banking. I guess you must have studied about offshore banking, right? So what is the meaning of offshore banking? Now, why people go and deposit in abroad? Offshore banking means you're not depositing the money, you're not transferring or having the money within the country, you're taking it outside the country. The Panama scandal, Panama Papers, Cayman Islands. So why it is used? Why people are going for what is called as tax havens? The example of say Mauritius route or round tripping. All right. So people, why they prefer for these so-called, why do they prefer the so-called which point you want to repeat? The beginning, like I'll come, like if at all you missed anything in the beginning, I'll come later on, people. All right. So why would they go for this Panama, like, or Swiss banks, or for Mauritius route? Like why? You see a lot of investments, the FDI coming from Mauritius. Why? The example is, I'll give you. For instance, people take like, see, there'll be a company, parent company in Mauritius. Here it is Mauritius. Here it is India. So people generate black money here. With that black money, they go to Mauritius and they invest and they create a company, say A. After which they'll create a company, say X. So this will be a parent company. This will be a subsidiary company. Now all those operations will be here, but they don't pay taxes here. Why they don't pay taxes here? If at all the Indian authorities ask, what they'll say that like our parent company is in Mauritius, they will pay taxes. But in Mauritius, it will be very less. That is the reason it is called as tax havens. Comparatively, the tax is very less, very minimal. So what they do, even though most of the operations are happening in India, so they take the money illegally out of India and they start a company, and then they start a kind of a subsidiary company, a branch like that, like, and then they start the operations, but they don't pay taxes. That is called as round tripping, tax havens, Mauritius route they call it as. All right, so they always go for offshore banking, where say why Swiss bank? First of all, because Swiss bank, they maintain the confidentiality of the account holders. They maintain the confidentiality of the account holders. They don't ask about where the whereabouts, how did you got the money, and they won't reveal that. And that is the reason why people do prefer that. All right, so this is what basically happens. So these are the reasons why tax havens or offshore banking, it is most preferred route. So straight away place that in the tax havens, place them in the offshore banking so that you won't be caught. Number one. And the other techniques which are involved as a part of it is a technique called smurfing. So I said, what is a smurfing? I said smurfing means breaking a larger amount. 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs, again 2 lakhs, 1 lakh, 2, 3, 5 to 7, 8, 9 and 10. So 1 lakh each. So this is what like, so smurfing means breaking larger amount into smaller amounts and then depositing in someone else's accounts. So as to hide the identity. This is also a technique which is used, smurfing. And the next one is called as shell companies. The next one is called as what? Shell companies. Now, what are shell companies means? Those companies which exist only in papers. Shell companies means those companies which exist only in papers. So there will be a company, for instance, like I have a lot of black money. What I'll do, I'll create a fake company. I'll make myself the CEO of the company. I'll be made to provide a salary of say 50 lakh per year. So everything looks, I'll maintain an account. I'll make transactions and everything. I'll be paid such hefty money. But if at all the authorities come and sees where exactly the company is, how it is operating, it won't exist physically. These are called as what? Shell companies. The interesting factor is that last 3 years back, in India, the government discovered 2 lakh such shell companies. 2 lakh such shell companies. So many fake companies. Why? Money laundering. A lot of politicians are involved in that. Understand? This is one thing. And next one is Hawala. Next one is Hawala. Now, what is the meaning of Hawala here? So, Hawala means, I guess I've already discussed about it. Like, so there is a person A, and there is a person say B. So A wants to transfer this money. So say A is in say Saudi Arabia, B is in India. So if A wants to say transfer some 1 crore, he would have to pay commission to the bank. He would have to show the sources also, and B will also have to be answerable to RBI and other banks if at all. Now what he'll do that, so instead of directly through a banking process, through a legal process, he will find an Hawala agent in Saudi Arabia. This agent will ensure that he will not transfer, he will contact a similar agent in India. Now, so instead of paying this 1 crore through bank, A will pay to Hawala agent 1 crore. This person will contact the Hawala agent and he will pay this person 1 crore. Understood? So instead of going through banking process, you have to pay the commission, you have to know the sources, he'll be caught. That is the reason why. So A, instead of going through banking process, he will pay to the agent which is there in his country, and this person will contact, he won't transfer, he will somehow transfer it later on. He will transfer that amount to the Hawala agent in India. So this agent will give. So later on, somehow they will get the money. This is called as Hawala. It is a process wherein there is no actual transfer through a legal process, but indirectly. Understand? So this is called as Hawala. So these are the techniques or some of the steps involved in it. Understand? Fine. So maybe for your understanding, like again, one more thing, like I would like to, I can play a video today. So this is a video which shows about the working of money laundering. ஆடியோ எடுக்குமா? ஸ்க்ரீன் ஷேர் பண்ணிக்கங்க ஒரு நிமிஷம்.
Vast and profitable empire of organized crime. As one of the most notorious gangsters in history, Al Capone presided over a vast and profitable empire of organized crime. But when he was finally put on trial, the most he could be convicted of was tax evasion. The nearly $100 million a year, that's 1.4 billion in today's currency, that Capone had earned from illegal gambling, bootlegging, brothels and extortion would have served as evidence of his crimes. But the money was nowhere to be found. Capone and his associates had hidden it through investments in various businesses whose ultimate ownership couldn't be proven, like cash-only laundromats. In fact, those laundromats are part of the reason for the name of this activity, money laundering. Money laundering came to be the term for any process that cleans illegally obtained funds of their dirty criminal origins, allowing them to be used within the legal economy. But Capone wasn't the first to launder money. In fact, this practice is about as old as money itself. Merchants hid their riches from tax collectors, and pirates sought to sell their bounty without drawing attention to how they got it. With the recent arrival of virtual currencies, offshore banking, the dark net, and global markets, schemes have become much more complex. Although modern money laundering methods vary greatly, most share three basic steps: placement, layering, and integration. Placement is where illegally obtained money is converted into assets that seem legitimate. That's often done by depositing funds into a bank account registered to an anonymous corporation or a professional middleman. This step is where criminals are often most vulnerable to detection, since they introduce massive wealth into the financial system seemingly out of nowhere. The second step, layering, involves using multiple transactions to further distance the funds from their origin. This can take the form of transfers between multiple accounts or the purchase of tradable property like expensive cars, artwork, and real estate. Casinos, where large sums of money change hands every second, are also popular venues for layering. A money launderer may have their gambling balance made available at a casino chain's locations in other countries or work with employees to rig games. The last step, integration, allows clean money to re-enter the mainstream economy and to benefit the original criminal. They might invest it into a legal business, claim payment by producing fake invoices, or even start a bogus charity, placing themselves on the board of directors with an exorbitant salary. Money laundering itself wasn't officially recognized as a federal crime in the United States until 1986. Before that point, the government needed to prosecute a related crime, like tax evasion. From 1986 on, they could confiscate wealth simply by demonstrating that concealment had occurred, which had a positive effect on prosecuting major criminal operations like drug traffickers. However, the legal shift has raised concerns involving privacy and government surveillance. Today, the United Nations, national governments, and various non-profits fight against money laundering, yet the practice continues to play a major role in global crime. And the most high-profile instances of money laundering have involved not just private individuals, but major financial institutions and government officials. No one knows for sure the total amount of money that's laundered on a yearly basis, but some organizations estimate it to be in the hundreds of billions of dollars.
Fine. I hope you enjoy this video. Screen share, Matthew. All right. All right. So that is what like money laundering. I hope like so that was kind of useful. All right. So about cryptocurrency as a technique, actually, that is also used actually, but cryptocurrencies and these things, like unless you have the basics, maybe I guess you'll be taught in science and technology. Maybe later on, like what is the impact of cryptocurrency with respect to money laundering? That is a very separate topic which you have to discuss as a part of current affairs. This is basically a foundation course, like so people I say no. So first of all, you need to have this one. Like this is the foundation course where we are going to give the basic approaches and everything. And once you clear, actually we have dedicated mains course wherein like we'll be focusing on those developments. All right, fine. So as of now, like if I start explaining each and everything, so it will take time also, and it will take like much of a time, like I might take more classes also. That is the reason why. So cryptocurrency impact is one of the expected lines. All right, so we'll discuss like whenever it is possible. All right, so this is one thing like with respect to uh, these money laundering process and techniques involved. Now next we are going to see the consequences. What are the consequences of it? See, Hawala, like I guess like if not like people who have not understand, like I'll explain that during the break again. Next, write down what are the consequences. So why exactly, how exactly money laundering is an impact, how it is impacting the society, how it is impacting the economy, how it is impacting the political. All right, so all those things we have. So again, like people have questions, that is what like I should not. The person earns some money through any profession but didn't deposit money in the bank and thereby hide his original income is black money. No, that is what, like, see, if it is from legitimate source, that is not a problem. If you are earning through legitimate sources, that is not a problem. So that might be tax evasion. That is also indirectly money laundering. Again, if you have a lot of revenue but you're not showing that to the government, you're not furnishing it to the government, that is also offense under the Income Tax Act, because that is tax evasion. That is also money laundering. Understand? But that you won't be kind of put in jail and all. You'll be made to pay so much of amount as taxes, penalty only, mostly penalty only. But if it is illegal sources, you'll be penalized under that also. Fine. Now, what we're going to see the consequences. What are the consequences of that in the economy? What are the consequences that in the security aspect? All those things. Fine. So we'll start with the economy aspect. What are the consequences of money laundering in economy? What are the consequences of money laundering in economy? So as far as economy is concerned, it will affect a lot of things. First of all, the first major important thing which it does is it creates inflation. Number one, money laundering, the biggest problem is it creates inflation. You see, inflation is something like, you know, I guess you study these concepts in economy, right? I need not explain inflation, right? So how it inflates, like you see, most of the states, like in Tamil Nadu also, you must have heard, like the real estate sector, mostly people who have illegal proceeds, they invest in real estate as well as gold, where they don't ask about money. Understand? So I have few questions again. I'll answer that. Don't worry, people. Like during the break or later on, I'll answer it. So please wait, because the momentum is getting disturbed. That is the reason why. Now, inflation, I said, like mostly take in the case of real estate. In the case of real estate sector, all right, gold and all. Mostly they used to invest, and as a result, you see, lot of apartments, flats, they are not so sold on one hand. On the other side, there are a lot of people who are homeless. So one side there is no demand, but they create an artificial demand. They inflate the price. You see, what is this inflation is basically between demand and supply, right? If there is more supply, less demand. All right, more supply means less demand, like it will be equating. But here you see there is a lot of supply, but despite a lot of supply, the price should reduce, but it's not reducing. Why? Because a lot of money involved in it. All right. So first of all, like it creates a lot of impact on the inflation. So as a result of it, like you know that in the real estate sector also, how tax evasion does, like how many of us, first of all, like register a property based on the true market value? No. You see, there is a lot of difference between guideline value and market value because we don't want to pay taxes. So everything, it's there. Like, this is one thing. So first is inflation. It affects the common man. And the second one is, sorry, just a minute, like, switch color, inflation one. Number two, please write it down. Number two, how it affects the business. How it affects the business. You see, because of this inflation, you see people having black money, what they do, they used to invest a lot of money in a specific business and they used to have an unfair competition, which will lead to unfair competition. Now, have you heard about this concept called predatory pricing? In India Competition Commission, like we deal with a concept called predatory pricing. First of all, what they'll do, they'll keep the prices minimal, after which like they will kind of throw away the competitors. Thereafter, what they will do, they will increase the prices. Once they monopolize, they'll increase the prices. Jio was also accused of predatory pricing, but the case did not stand. Jio, when they gave the data free, right, because Airtel and Vodafone, they were giving 1 GB for 250 rupees. 250 rupees, 1 GB. Suddenly Jio came, like he gave like for 250 rupees, everything is free. No limitations on the capping, unlimited calls. Now again, everything changed. Today we have a kind of a justifiable phenomena, but still that is what will happen. One business, like having all the huge money, what they want to do ultimately, they want to convert that, like, so they're not concerned about like the profit. What they want to make it, they want to make it as an legal sources. So by which what they distort the economy by ruining the business. They create an unfair competition. By creating an unfair competition or these predatory pricing, what they used to do, they first of all make the things less productive. All right, because of this competition, the quality becomes, so less productive means there is a drop in quality. There is a drop in quality. And as a resultant, what will happen? It will cause the distrust. So the customers, they will lose the trust on the business people. So it's basically distorting a specific economy. All right. Fine. This is what. Now, once the business gets distorted, consequently, what happens? Once the business gets distorted, now we speak a lot about investment, right? We speak a lot about investment. So people are investing from India also, people are investing from abroad also. You speak about foreign direct investments, FDI, FPA and all. Now, if the internal situation is very bad, if the business sector has a bad name, had lost trust among the customers, now all the investment which are coming from outside also will be declined. So as a resultant, what? There will be a decline in the investment also, especially from the foreign investors also. Because already the reputation is damaged. All right. So entire thing, the entire set of things, business, it's kind of problematic. This is one thing. Inflation, business, investment, everything gets affected. This is one thing. Now coming to the important factor, how it affects the society. So first we have seen the economic consequences. Now we are going to see the social consequences. Second one, we are going to see the social consequences. What are the consequences of money laundering in the society? As I said, like, no, there is a difference between the haves and have-nots. In India, the inequality with respect to economy is very high. Now, what happens because of the business affected, because of these artificial inflation and all? I'll give you a simple example. Inflation is one thing. Consider about tax evasion. Tax evasion leads to less tax revenue, is it not? Tax revenue is one of the most important sources of revenue in Indian government, state government as well as the government of India. Now what happens? Tax evasion, because of which result in less tax revenue, meaning the government spending on poor people for welfare schemes. It all gets reduced, is it not? So because of this tax evasion, there is less tax revenue to the government, because of which the government is unable to spend for the welfare schemes. Even though the politicians are corrupt, they need to have money to spend something at least, right, in order to survive. This is what. So it's create a kind of, you can say, we speak about socio-economic justice, right? It won't happen. It will ruin the economy, it will ruin the society. That is what called socio-economic injustice. So all the directive principles, what we had it, right, we won't be able to follow it. Understand? It distorts the society. The gap between the have and have not, it keeps on increasing. You see all those countries where the money laundering is high. Take the case of South American countries, where there is a lot of drug trafficking, a lot of illegal things are there. You see people on one side filthy rich, on the other side they are very poor. All right, so that is one of the examples I can give you. And the third one, what is the impact on the politics, the political, how the politics is affected? The best example is, which you have heard often, criminalization of politics. Criminalization of politics. So what happens? So there is a cycle. So where, first of all, there is a corrupt politician. There is a corrupt politician. He had made a lot of money through corruption. Now what he does, he can survive, he can be safe only if he is in power. Is it not? Only if he continues the power, he can be safe, or else like he'll be put in jail. What he does, so in order to retain himself in the power, what he used to do, he used to buy the voters. Meaning what? He used to spend money to buy the voters. Now after which, after coming to power, what will you do? So whatever the money he lost to buy the voters, he will again involve in corruption. This is not logically. So this cycle continues. He does corruption, he wants to retain power, so as to retain power, he'll spend money, so as to take that expended money, he has to again involve in corruption. So this cycle continues forever. Alright, so that is what called as criminalization of politics. Fine. So it is kind of like making the politics a dirty one also. Understand? This is one thing. So no more about welfare, it's more about corruption again. So people, normal people who wanted to do something for the society, they cannot win the elections. Fine. This is point number 3. And point number 4 is, what are the consequences of this on the security of the country? This is an important one. You see, in the border management, we have seen like money laundering across Myanmar, across Pakistan, Nepal, also Bangladesh, also in almost all the countries, border areas. Why? The meaning is, the laundered money is a very important source. The money which is laundered, it is a very important source of funding or income for the separatist or insurgent groups, or even you call as the terrorist. So today we'll find out the differences between these 3 things. Understand? Security aspect, it is a very important source. It is a very important source. It is a very important source of funding. You see, most often the enforcement directorate, they involve in that, finding out. All right. So it has an impact on the economy, it has an impact on the society, it has an impact on the politics, it has an impact on the security of the nation also. So it is these money which is laundered, it keeps the forces, these inimical forces, enemy to India, keep them running. It's kind of a fuel to that, to buy arms and do that. Understand? This is what basically, these are the consequences of money laundering. Understand? These 4 dimensions you keep in mind. Now this is fine, like the basics fine. Now we have to see the solutions for it. So how can we prevent that? How can we prevent money laundering? So we have seen like the definition part, we have seen the second one, like the steps involved, the process involved, then we have seen the techniques involved, we have seen the causes also, that is the consequences also. Now we are going to see the ways in which we can prevent. So how to prevent money laundering? So prevention, we are going to see a lot of aspects. So the institutional mechanisms. Second, we are going to see what are the legal mechanisms. We are going to see the measures of executive, and we are going to see about the international mechanisms. All right, so what are the institutional mechanisms we have in India? What are the legislative mechanisms we have in India? What are the executive measures taken by Indian government, and as well as the international? Why international specifically? Because this is a trans-border crime. This is what? A trans-border crime. That is the reason why. We'll start with the institutional mechanisms first. So what are the institutional mechanisms we have in India? So what are the institutions we have in India to prevent money laundering or to prosecute? So in India, you have 2 major institutions. One is called as Enforcement Directorate, and another is FIU-IND. What is FIU-IND means? Financial Intelligence Unit India. Financial Intelligence Unit India. Some good suggestions. I'll discuss those points during the break. All right. So the difference between ED is on always in news, thanks to Vijay Mallya, thanks to Nirav Modi. ED is always in news. So Enforcement Directorate, if there is Enforcement Directorate, it is relevant to you, money laundering. So the basic difference between Enforcement Directorate and FIU, the Financial Intelligence Unit, is this is basically a prosecuting agency. This is basically a prosecution or prosecuting agency or institution. Whereas in the case of FIU, the Financial Intelligence Unit of India, it is basically an intelligence agency. So to give a best example, it is more like these people are like police, CBI, investigation, prosecution or investigating agency. You can say as investigating agency also. Whereas FIU is a intelligence agency. So their object is to gather intelligence. Their object is to gather intelligence. For instance, if FIU is there, what FIU India will do? If there is a kind of, you can say, a suspicious transaction. If there is a suspicious transaction, suddenly a person like he does transaction which he had never done, suddenly some 1 crore, 10 crore, something like that. Or where there is some suspicion which may be outside the banking system also. Sometimes some property is being bought. What will happen? So first of all, FIU, they will gather the data. All right. So what is the process? They will receive or gather the data. They will process the data. They will analyze the data. And finally, they will disseminate the data, share. Okay, such transactions have been happened between so and so. Now they will forward it to whom? ED. So ED will now take the case. Okay, why the transaction happened? They will start investigation. Understand? So based on the intelligence input which is given by FIU India, now who will start investigation? It is ED. ED will start it. So now what ED will do? Enforcement Directorate, I said keep police in mind. What are the powers police have it? Police has the power to arrest a person. Yes, they can arrest. Police has the power to investigate. Yes, they can investigate. Police has the power to seize. Here is also. What here it is? Seizure of property. Alright. So seizure of property also. And see, seizure, I mean, normally it is immovable property. When I speak about, movable property. When I speak about immovable property, we call it as attachment. So this is a word which you often hear, right? Attachment of. ED has attached the properties of Vijay Mallya in Goa, or the properties of Nirav Modi. Alright, this is what called as attachment. See, normally seizure, it refers to movable property. This is about movable property. This is about immovable property. Like, alright. So they have the power to arrest, they have the power to investigate, they have the power to seize and attach, and they have the powers to prosecute. Meaning what? Under the PMLA Act, all these powers, they derived powers from PMLA Act. The Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002 has given powers to Enforcement Directorate to do these following things with respect to money laundering. So any person who is accused of money laundering, he will be investigated, he will be arrested, he will be his property will be attached, and he'll be prosecuted in a special court. So they have a special court also. Under the PMLA Act, there are special courts. The trial happens there. The trial happens there. Understand? This is what. So these are the things. So next time you can follow ED related to that. So these are related to. So based on the intelligence information provided by the FIU India, they have it. See, every country has their FIU. So that is what FIU India, similarly FIU they have in Pakistan, Sri Lanka and all. Every country has this. So what they'll do, they'll kind of exchange information actually. I'll discuss about that later on. This is what about the institutional mechanisms. Now we'll see the other ones. So first, institutional mechanisms, it's fine. Next we will see the legal measures or the legislative mechanisms. Both same thing only, right? So what are the legislations we have in India related to that? We have several legislations, money laundering related things, PMLA Act, we have like Fugitive Economic Offenders Act, we have a Binami Act, and all. We'll see one by one. The major act which you have to know, the first of the thing is the PMLA Act. So your answer related to money laundering is incomplete without mentioning and speaking about PMLA Act. The Prevention of Money Laundering Act of 2002, it gives, I said like it already gives powers to FIU, it already gives powers to ED and all. Apart from that, it has defined what is it. So offenses have been listed. Everything is there in that PMLA Act. Now, what is the role here? Why we have to study about PMLA Act is, recently, the FATF, what is FATF? Which we'll discuss in a short while. Financial Action Task Force. It's a news yesterday also. Pakistan as in grey list. Pakistan still continues in grey list. India wanted to put that in the blacklist, but still it is in grey list. The Financial Action Task Force, what it did, it wanted India, it is demanding India to make money laundering it wants to change the Money Laundering Act. Alright, it wants to make amendments in the Money Laundering Act. What is the amendment they wanted? Presently, money laundering, it is called as a predicate offense. This is called as what? A predicate offense. But FATF wants India to make money laundering as an standalone offense. So listen carefully. Money laundering in India at present, it is a predicate offense. I guess if you have watched that video clearly, they would have mentioned that it was a predicate offense in USA also. Now FATF wants to make money laundering as a standalone offense. Now what is this predicate offense? What is this standalone offense? I'll give an example. For instance, You see, what are the sources of money laundering? Say corruption, say smuggling. So here smuggling, I say drug smuggling, tax evasion. All right, these are some of the sources of money laundering. So this black money. Now, who handles cases related to corruption in India? You know that people? Corruption related cases are handled by whom? CBI. Smuggling related cases are controlled or done by which one? The Narcotics Control Bureau, NCB. Narcotics Control Bureau. With respect to tax evasion, the income tax authorities. With respect to other frauds, it will be the police. Now what happens? These are some of the sources. Now once the source are there, now ED comes into the picture. After this one, the Enforcement Directorate comes into the picture. I'll give you an example. Recently, like last year, like you know this Aircel Max deal where P. Chidambaram was accused of this corruption money and all, money laundering. So you see, Chidambaram was arrested by CBI also. He was arrested and under the custody of Enforcement Directorate also. Why both means? He was arrested on corruption charges by CBI and on money laundering charges by Enforcement Directorate. There is nothing wrong in that. But here is the interesting thing. If at all CBI's case fail, then ED's case will also automatically fail. Why? Only if there is black money, then you speak about money laundering. First of all, you did not prove the illegal source. Understand? They got some money. So they got some money means indirectly what? The respective. So they have to find out what is the source, right? Whether it is a corrupt money, whether there is a tax evaded money, whether it is a smuggled money, whether it is out of prostitution or cybercrime, whatever it is. They should show that, right? So if you don't show what is the source of that money, now how will this ED will stand? That is called as what? Predicate offense. So normally these are scheduled actually. Meaning simply is that like the case of Enforcement Directorate depends on other people. That is called as predicate offense. So the major offense is this. So because of which like he is arrested. Now what FATF wants? FATF wants that no, don't make ED dependent on other people. Make it as standalone offense. No matter where the proceeds came from, be it corrupted money or anything else. If at all someone has money which is unaccounted, let Enforcement Directorate go arrest and prosecute them. Understand? This is what. So meaning what? Standalone offense, independent. So don't make them dependent on that. Understood? Understood, people? This is something you might confuse. So predicate offense means I said like Enforcement Directorate's investigation, prosecution depends on the other people. What is that predicate offense? What is the major offense? Based on the major offense, this is there. All right. So if you have understood it is fine, but later on, if anybody has a confusion, I can answer it later on also. Fine. This is about FATF. All right. I'll share an article also later on. So please remind me, guys. Next week, like I'll start sharing these articles. All right. So this is about predicate offense. So please follow Pre-MLA Act and all. So there is a brilliant frequently asked questions which is compiled by the these people, ED people. You can go through that also. This is about Pre-MLA Act. Fine. The next one you should know is, write down the next act is, the next act which I'm going to mention is the black money. Write down the black money, undisclosed foreign income, black money, undisclosed foreign income, and assets Imposition of Tax Act. Imposition of Tax Act 2015. Black money, undisclosed foreign income and assets, imposition of tax act of 2015. So by this money, what, like you see, this is 2015. You see that the present prime minister, like he has vowed to bring black money, right? So what he did, like, no, he enacted this law. So he thought of like bringing in the black money. So he said like one time opportunity will be given. Those people who have taken the money outside India and they have bought like all those things. So we'll give given one time opportunity. You just pay the taxes, no penal offenses. You can bring the money. But somehow through the scheme, some 4,000 crore worth properties and other things came. But 4,000 crores is very meager, right? But why it is a kind of failure? Who are those people who have stashed away these money abroad? The politicians, the bureaucrats, and the businessmen. You see some politicians, some officers, I don't want to mention the name and all. Some people have castles, some people have bought islands also. So how come it will be possible to bring out these money? So there is an excess among these people. So it's a kind of failure, like only some 4 to 5,000 crores it was there. So on one time kind of an opportunity was given, one time window compliance was given, but it was not so successful. This is one thing. And the other thing is about they made changes in the Benami Act. In 2016, the Benami Act was amended. The Benami Act was amended. So the Benami Act, like originally it was 1988, it was amended recently so as to include such stringent provisions. So what is basically Benami? You know, Benami means like normally it is associated with the politicians, right? So all those corrupted money, they used to buy property in somebody else's name, mostly relatives, friends. Understand? So this is most associated with the politicians, right? So what in the case of Benami Act, like, so Benami means some fictitious name, or sometimes it may be relatives or friends. So they used to buy property or run business out of the proceeds of this illegal sources. They invest that and then they used to do that. That is called as Benami thing. All right. Fine. So this is called as Benami. So Benami Act also they amended. They made the Benamidar more offensive. But again, this is also not so successful. Benami Act was there in 1988. But again, who are the Benamis? The Benamis are the businessmen. Who are the people who are investing that? The politicians again. Again, this is also not so successful. Everything looks good on the books, but in letter and spirit, it is not so. Okay, this is what. Next one. The next legislation is, please write it down. The Fugitive Economic Offenders Act. The Fugitive Economic Offenders Act. The Fugitive Economic Offenders Act. Now, what is this Fugitive Economic Offenders Act of 2018 means? Who is the fugitive economic offender? Take the case of Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi. I guess Nirav Modi, he is ordered to be extradited. We'll discuss that also. Who is a fugitive economic offender means anyone who has done money laundering of worth say 100 crores. So anyone, you can say, who has committed an economic offense whose value is more than 100 crores. Anyone who has committed an economic offense where the worth of that offense, it is valued more than 100 crores, plus an arrest warrant is issued and so as to evade from this arrest warrant, he is absconding outside the Indian jurisdiction. All right. So Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi of PNB scam, Punjab National Bank. So they have done a lot of scam, serious frauds, money laundered. All right. So they, on these people, the arrest warrant has been issued. So as to evade from the arrest, they have absconded, meaning their whereabouts did not find. Right now only they found it as in UK after placing. All right. So they are outside the jurisdiction. Now they can be bought only through. They can be brought only through what is called as extradition. We'll discuss about extradition. So for Vijay Mallya, already they got, but again, it is an appeal process. Some things are discussed there in the appellate court. But in the case of Nirav Modi, he has been given extradition. Again, we have to wait and watch what will happen to Nirav Modi also, whether it is possible to bring him back. All right. So this is about fugitive economic offenders. So in the case of fugitive economic offenders, you see that normally these people, so when they are kind of arrested, they will be put, they'll be given both, they'll be penalized also, they'll be kind of put in jail also. But the interesting thing with respect to fugitive economic offenders is that now under this FEO, you can confiscate. Now the enforcement directorate, they can attach properties abroad also. They can attach properties of Nirav Modi and Vijay Mallya which are located abroad. All right. So they can confiscate, they can attach as well as confiscate these properties. This is what. And similarly, now they cannot file. So these people, Nirav Modi and Vijay Mallya, they cannot file any civil suit in India right now. There is a bar on filing civil suit, or they cannot defend in the court. Like, so until and unless they pay this amount, they clear the dues, they won't be made to file. There is a bar to file cases, civil suits in the court. This is what. All right. This is one thing. So these are some of the legislations which you have to know that. In addition to that, next we'll see some of the executive mechanisms. The next one, we'll see what are the executive mechanisms. What are the executive mechanisms or measures undertaken by Government of India? There are a lot of things. So even say demonetization was considered to be one such thing. Even though demonetization was with a good head, then you know that like most of the money returned back. They expected only some 90%, but unfortunately 99% returned back. So that is again to an extent it is, but mostly it is a failure because the target is a failure, I mean. And there are several schemes. Schemes 1, Project Insight. What is this Project Insight? You see, Project Insight is a scheme of income tax authorities wherein they will kind of, you can say kind of compare whatever you have filed. For instance, like I'm there, so I have filed only say 2 lakhs per annum as my income. Now suddenly what I used to do, I used to in my Facebook page or in Instagram, like I used to post with a car, a Lamborghini car. So how come a person with 2 lakhs per income per annum, he can buy a car worth 4 crores, 5 crores? All right. So whatever it is, whatever the transactions I am doing, the banking transactions, filing of GST, filing of income tax. So based on that and based on the inputs, like they used to compare everything, even like those posts which are your, like this is not kind of surveillance actually, whatever you're posting voluntarily. So all these data are gathered and by which they make a comparison. It's kind of usage of artificial intelligence. These people, they're using artificial intelligence by which they're comparing it, like what sort of transactions, why they're doing it, and so based on which they're kind of tracking it. So these are one of the things, insights like Project Insight. And also there are several schemes like income declaration scheme. it was there in 2016. Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. All these schemes, what it did actually, so a one-time opportunity was given. Okay, fine. So in India, like how the Black Money Act in India, an opportunity was given that you can declare your income, no penal offenses, you have to pay taxes, and under this PM Garib Kalyan Yojana, so after paying taxes, a certain portion of your amount will be kept in bank as a deposit. Like you can't take it back for so 2-3 years, or there is a 4-year lock-in period kind of thing, during which it will be used for the welfare of the people, the proceeds out of it. So such things were there. But unfortunately, what happened, all these things are kind of failure only. You see, all these things like demonetization or income declaration scheme, Pradhan Garib Kalyan Yojana, a lot of schemes which were implemented so as to bring the black money or make the people declare their income. All right, an approximate 1,15,000 crores it was shown of these schemes, an approximate 1,15,000 crores it was made shown to the government actually. The sources were placed actually, so it became part of the legal system, legal banking system as well as the financial system. But even having said like the kind of money laundering, it is in the case of, you can say 100, it may be 100 lakh crores also. So just imagining the kind of money laundered, it is a fraction amount only. Understand, this is what you have to know, that this is only a fraction of the amount, and this is the reason why it is kind of problematic. Fine, it's not so successful. Next one, why I say it's not successful. Next one, the next one is, what are the international mechanisms? What are the international mechanisms? What are the international mechanisms? So international mechanisms, I'm going to discuss about two things. One is, there are institutional mechanisms, international institutions, which you have to know. One is Egmont Group. And another is FATF. One is Egmont Group and one is FATF. See, Egmont Group is nothing but it is kind of like all the financial intelligence unit of all the countries. They share the information. FAU of, like for instance, there is a lot of transaction between India and Switzerland. So FAU of Switzerland as well as FAU of India, they share that. So it's a kind of a multilateral platform wherein you share the intelligence unit of the respective countries. They share the information. That is called as Egmont Group. All right. So it is basically what? Exchange of intelligence, exchange of information, exchange of information. Yes, Vivad Se Vishwas scheme also kind of related to that. Vivad Se Vishwas, that is part of current affairs. Okay, fine. So here it is Egmont Group. It is basically what? Exchange of information related to that transactions. And what about FATF? I said like FATF, there are certain basic things which you have to know that. FATF is basically what? Anti-money laundering and counter-terror financing. FATF is basically what? It is an anti-money laundering institution plus counter-terror financing. These two words always used. Financial Action Task Force, it is both focusing on prevention of money laundering, that is anti-money laundering, and also countering terror financing, so as to prevent the flow of funds among the terrorists. Now how you have to prepare? Like, see, I'm not going to discuss about FATF. Again, it will take half an hour. No, I don't want to. I'll tell you how to proceed. Whether India is a member of that, first of all, find out. Any international organization which is in news, FATF is very much important. I'm expecting this question for last 5 years. I don't know, at least by next year it will come in the this one. Like maybe it is there so much, like it is there asked in the interview. People have answered. But in the mains, I'm expecting this question last 5 years. Maybe I don't know whether they'll ask, like, because once they asked indirectly about this one, about the terrorist funding. All right. So FATF, what are things you have to know that? Now FATF, whether India is a member or not. Whether India is a member, write down. FATF, India Initially, it was an observer in 2006. All right. So 2006, India was an observer. All right. It was in 2010, India became a full-fledged member. 2010, India became a full-fledged member. All right. So as I said, like it is about anti-money laundering as well as combating terror financing, right? So now this is what. So how many? So you know about like what is India's role? So what is India's role? You have to find out, and how many countries in total? So present you have 37 countries plus 2 organizations, right? 2 organizations, that is European Union plus Gulf Cooperation Council. All right. So it is a kind of, you can say, an intergovernmental policy making body. It is basically what an intergovernmental policy making body. So these things. So focus on FATF's role with respect to India. Focus on what is grey list, what is blacklist, and there is a partiality also. You know that, like, who are the people in the blacklist? Iran and North Korea. So those people who are against America, they're there. All right. So those things, who are the people in the blacklist, what are the complaints mechanisms? I think that will be discussed in the current affairs. You'll be getting it in the prelims test series and all. If not, again, like if I'll go through the questions. If not, that is discussed, we'll go through that. FATF is very important again. All right, please go through that. FATF is a very important institution mechanism internationally. All right, this is one thing. And the next one we are going to see is what are the bilateral mechanisms, right? On what are the bilateral mechanisms? International. So we have seen this international mechanisms, right? So right now we have seen the multilateral institutions. So we'll see what are the bilateral mechanisms. The bilateral mechanisms include, write down point number 1, DTAA. DTAA. What is DTAA? Double Taxation Avoidance Agreement. Double Taxation Avoidance Agreement, number 1. Along with that, know about GAR also. What is GAR? General Anti-Avoidance Rule. General Anti-Avoidance Rule. Next is automatic exchange of information. So there is an agreement between the countries related to automatic exchange of information, especially related to banking transactions. Automatic exchange of information related to tax, basically. That is called as TIEAS also, Tax Information Exchange Agreements. So the countries used to engage in these agreements. Tax Information Exchange Agreements. And there is something called MLATs also. What is MLAT? Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty. MLATs means what? Mutual Legal Assistance Treaties. Mutual Legal Assistance Treaties. Now, DTAA, GAR, you will study in economics. I'm not going to discuss about that. Double Taxation Avoidance Agreement, GAR, this Tax Information Exchange Agreements. These are bilateral mechanisms, say between, say, India and a specific country. Now, I'll explain about mutual legal assistance treaties, which maybe they won't be covered in economics. So when I discuss about mutual legal assistance treaties, means I'm going to discuss a concept which is called as extradition. Under MLATs, I'm going to discuss about a concept called extradition. What is the meaning of extradition, people? Extradition. So extradition is nothing but you're bringing the offender to your country. So take the case of Vijay Mallya. So Vijay Mallya, he has committed offense where? In India. After which he flew to, or he somewhat escaped to England or UK. Now what India does it, India and UK, they have a mutual legal assistance treaty which was signed, I guess, in 1993. I don't know the exact year actually. It was signed in 1993. Now what happens, as per the arrangement, a person who has committed offense in India, if he flees to UK, if India places a proper evidence in UK that this person is an offender, we have to prosecute him. Then UK will conduct a trial, and if there is prima facie evidence in that, UK will send Vijay Mallya back to India. Understand? So this is what extradition. Offense in India goes abroad in UK. India and UK have a mutual legal assistance treaty, extradition treaty, by which meaning what? If an offender from India goes to UK, UK will extradite to India. Similarly, any person in UK, if he has done offense in India, if UK authorities places those evidence in Indian courts, they can also be extradited to UK. This is what called as mutual legal assistance treaties. Lot of people have been extradited. All right, especially the D gang, Dawood gang in Bombay. All right, Chota Shakil, Chota Rajan and all. Have you heard about these people? All right, Abu Salim from Portugal. Lot of examples. All right. So Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi, all these people, extradition yesterday, like TAE means Tax Information Exchange Agreement. All right, that is what. So please do follow extradition. This is what extradition means. Like we have like Extradition Act and all. You need not know. In 1962 we have an Extradition Act 1962, but that is, I said, like that is part of law. You don't need to require it, but follow extradition. All right, extradition with respect to Nirav Modi, at least yesterday it was in news this week and all. Please go through that. Fine. This is what about extradition, which you need to know. This is one of the bilateral mechanisms. So you need, like, since this is a transnational crime, this is a transnational crime means because fund flows from one country to another country in a globalized world. So you need the cooperation. It's a very important aspect. Fine. This is what. And judiciary also did its part. All right. Judiciary also did its part. Like judiciary tried its part. Like they created a special investigation team also to probe into that. Like, but finally they placed that report, but they did not even estimate how much is the black money. So it was appointed to kind of unearth the estimate of black money. They couldn't even estimate the exact numbers, even near to the figures. All right, fine. That is the kind of impact actually. Okay, so India and US have this sort of an agreement. Maybe Ashwin, I don't think so. Okay, maybe like I'll check that. I'll check that. Like India and US. See, I don't think the US have it, because it's not so easy to enter into US. Like, have you seen like any people who's committed any wrong and entered into US? Mostly not. Mostly not. All right. You see what happened right now? Those people who supported Joe Biden, right now he is accused. No, he has bombed Syria, right? Nuclear bombing. So that's what the politicians, like. You never trust the politicians of USA. Democrats are, I can say, Republicans. Both people, like. All right. So this is what. And that is the reason mostly they used to escape to other countries where there is the favorite, and mostly compared to USA they go to UK because they have a lot of legal loopholes. All right, so that is what, like, maybe fine. So that is what, like, maybe again I can check it. You can check it online also in Ministry of External Affairs also. You can check it. All right, fine. This is about money laundering. Fine. So money laundering, I said, like, you have to go through this one, and FATF you have to study. All right. So the effectiveness of FATF and other things, like, which I've discussed in the previous years and all, but right now, like, I don't want to, because already we are running out of time. All right, so that is the reason why I'm keeping it as short, the basics. And if at all, if it is not covered as a part of current affairs in the examination perspective in the prelims test series or other things, like, I'll definitely post a video regarding this effectiveness. All right. So I hope you got the basics, people. Like, so people, in the meantime, we'll have a break. People, we have the break. In the meantime, I'll clear the doubts. We'll have a break for 5 minutes. You can ask your doubts right now. You can ask your doubts right now. I'll answer your doubts right now. Okay. So one thing is, sir, one of the raw person was worked in spies in US. So after find him, he escaped to US, sir, with the support of US. Income. Okay, I'll come to that. Like, okay. So can you share that news article? Okay, what is the income declaration scheme is what? So how Black Money Act was there in the foreign, income declaration scheme within India, like one time opportunity. Okay, fine. They say that like normally you won't be penalized. You, if you have say 100 rupees, pay 40% as taxes, 40 rupees as taxes. I won't penalize you more. No offense, no imprisonment. That is what income declaration scheme often it comes in once in 5 years, 10 years and all. All right. So nothing so specific about like there were such schemes. I am saying that. Okay, Hawala. See, Hawala, two persons, A to B. All right. Now, from Saudi Arabia, I said like he has to send money to a person in India. If he does send directly, he has to pay commission. He has to show the sources. He'll be caught. So what he does in Saudi Arabia, that person, he will find a Hawala agent. He'll tell that like I need to send 1 crore rupee to a person in India. That Hawala agent in Saudi Arabia, he will contact a Hawala agent in India and he'll say that like no, pay 1 crore to the person B in India. This is what. So A and B, no official financial transactions. But A will give the money to the Hawala agent. That Hawala agent in India will give to the money to B. Later on, these Hawala agents somehow they'll get the money. If you still have doubt, like no, if you are say from if you are watching Tamil movies, you can watch Shivaji movie, Rajini's movie where they mentioned about Hawala. All right. Integration definition. Ramesh, I didn't get it. Like, so can you rephrase it? Integration definition means like, see, integration means where you're mixing the money so that it is difficult to find it. Like you're getting back the money. Integration is means like you're mixing the money so that like you don't know how much is the black money and white money. You're getting the money in terms of property or something like that. You can still rephrase your question like how money laundering poses threat to security. That is what I said. No, laundered money is used as a funding for terrorists. Terrorist people, they use the money to buy arms and to fight against the state. So money laundering consequences on business. That is what I'm saying, that people who laundered money, who cannot conceal the money, what they want to do, they will invest a lot in business. They're not into profit. They're not thinking about the profit. They show fake invoices. They show fake profits. So how do they show fake profits and other things now? So they want to show the transactions by distorting the economy by cheaper, giving it cheaper. A product worth say 100 rupees, they'll make it as very cheaper also. Sometimes they make it as costlier also. Making it costlier, that is very different. But making it cheaper, what will happen? No, it will distort the business. It will be an unfair competition. They will make the other people move out of the competition. All right, so that is called as one such example I've given predatory pricing. After which, what they'll do? Now, once they convert this money, again they'll start the legitimate business, or else they'll close the entire business and go away. Understand? If they invest in business, they need to show their income source. No, that is what initially they won't actually. Initially they won't. Like, you see one of the examples, I'll give it to you. In real estate, what they used to do, say for instance, I have a lot of black money means like normally people used to do like they'll get a smaller property worth say 1 crore or 2 crore, or say fine 10 lakhs. Now what they'll find like after a few period that the actual worth of the property will be 1 crore, but they'll show it in the income tax, they got it 10 lakhs. Now what will happen? After a few years, they would try to find a buyer who buys that with white money. No, you must have seen in advertisements that I need buyers who need to buy this property completely white, meaning what? Through a check or through bank transaction. Now why do you find that? Because you see, I have a capital gain. What I have to do is taxes, capital gain taxes. Okay, 10 lakh worth property, I have sold it for 2 crores. In actual, the property I bought it for 1 crore, I'm just selling it for 2 crores. Understand? But I showed it as what? 10 lakhs and 2 crores. For that, like this capital gain of 1 crore 90 lakhs, I have to pay taxes. All these money will become legitimate to me right now. So similarly in business also, gradually they will invest. They don't invest huge sum in one point of time. Small by small, they'll invest it. No, I don't think so. You need to go in depth actually. Maybe if you're any of you as a CA, you can get to know that, like basically you're kind of investigating as if I'm an chartered accountant. Like people want to know that, like. So you said profit making wouldn't be their motive, then why would they be predatory pricing? Predatory pricing, like basically two. I'm saying that, like, even so predatory pricing, one is about like to monopolize also. But I'm saying that initially it is not about profit making. Initially it is about making or bringing that, placing that money actually. They should place that money. So how to invest more money? So only if you generate more transactions, only then you can do that. Like anyhow you can go for shell companies, but shell companies will be caught. So what they'll do, like first initially they'll invest that, and slowly in order to improve the transactions. How you can improve the transactions? So someone is selling that product for 100 rupees. Now I'll say I am selling it for 80 rupees without margin. So what, people will start buying it. Now what I'll do, like I'll enhance it. So from say 100 transactions per year, turnover of say 10 lakhs, then I'll go for 100 lakhs. That is 1 crore. Thereafter I'll increase it. That is what the meaning is. So initially it won't be, but later on they'll start doing that. Agricultural money, no income tax. How can we show through agriculture? Agriculture, like that is the reason people do invest in it, but it is very difficult to track it actually. That is also very difficult to track only. But agriculture thing, like we cannot. So what do you people expect? Like what you expect, Ramesh? Like you want to include agricultural thing also as money laundering, or I'm not still getting it on agriculture money. No tax. How much can we show through agriculture? No, that is what, don't question me as a chartered accountant. All right. So even though I'm a lawyer by profession, if you have any legal doubts, I can answer it. But here, what are the questions you're asking is as if I'm a chartered accountant. So we'll stop with that. All right. All right. Fine. Okay. In the next one, so we have done with money laundering. Next, we'll see a next new topic. The next topic is linkages between organized crime and terrorism. Next topic is linkages between organized crime and terrorism. So please write down, people. So better I'll start a new one. Just a minute. Okay, better write it here only. So the next topic is linkages between organized crime and terrorism. So here, so there are two components, terrorism and organized crime. So first of all, today we'll start with terrorism, and then like we'll continue with organized crime, then we'll find the linkages. All right. So we'll start with terrorism first. So under the terrorism, so we are going to see what exactly the definition of terrorism, how terrorism is different from other crimes, what are the causes for terrorism, the types of terrorism, and the measures to prevent that, counter-terrorism measures. These are some of the things which we are going to discuss. Now we got to start with what is the definition of terrorism. All right, so we'll start with the definition of terrorism. In India, the definition of terrorism, we have it in UAP Act. We have this in what? UAP Act. What is UAPA? the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act of 1967, as amended in 2004, it has defined what is terrorism. As per UAPA Act, alright, section 15 defines what is a terrorist act. So what is a terrorist act? It is defined under section 15 of UAPA Act. Now what is the meaning of this? What is the definition of this terrorism? So under this UAPA Act, it is a lengthy definition. So for the understanding, I'll tell you. Under this section 15 of UAPA Act, any act which threatens the unity of India, the integrity of India, the sovereignty of India, any acts which threatens the unity, integrity, sovereignty and security of India, that is defined to be a terrorist act. So it has become given a wider definition. Just for the simpler things, after going home you can find out it is a very large definition, but I've given for the sake of understanding. Any act which threatens the unity, integrity, sovereignty and security of it. Alright. Or simply they used to say any act which creates terror, any act which creates terror in the minds of the people, or it may be with respect to India also or any foreign nation also. So Indian definition of terrorism covers terrorist act operated outside India also. Understand? And terror act which is operated outside India, that is in foreign soil also. So if anyone has committed terrorism outside India, which has an impact in India, they will also be considered as a terrorist act. So the best example is Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed. They are operating from Pakistan, right? Fine. This is what. So why previous slide? Anything there in previous slide? Okay, fine. So you can see Karthik. All right. So this is what the definition is. Fine. Now the other things which you have to know that, like, so if you look into the international definition of terrorism, so international definition of terrorism, 1937, the League of Nations, it defined terrorism. But what happened, that is not so effective. Today, there is no consensus among a uniform definition of terrorism. All the countries, they have their own sort of definition of terrorism. So terrorism being a global phenomena, terrorism being a kind of a transnational crime which is affecting all the people, humans, irrespective of the race, religion, class, anything, nationality. But there is no uniformity or consensus among the countries. Why there is uniformity or no consensus? I'll give you an example. You see, India, we propose a convention. This convention is called as what? In 1996, in the UN Security Council, we proposed a convention which is called as Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism. Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism. But unfortunately, this is still in the draft stage. Why this is still in the draft stage? Because I said the lack of consensus. Because of what? Why it is still not yet passed in the UN Security Council is because of there is a lack of consensus in the definition. Lack of consensus in defining what is terrorism. Now, why there is a lack of consensus? You know, there is a famous saying that one country's freedom fighter is another country's terrorist. One country's freedom fighter is another country's terrorist. Not one country's. So I'll give you an example. For instance, there is countries like USA on one side. There are organizations like OIC, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, on another side. What USA wants to include the so-called freedom fighters under the list of terrorists. Say those people in the Middle East, the Palestine. All right. The Hezbollah things, other things. So those people are fighting for liberation. But whereas they don't want the kind of military operations or the military forces, the actions of military forces, they don't want to include as a part of the definition. Say what they did in Syria or what they did in, you can say, Afghan. But whereas organizations like OIC, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, what they want, they don't want to include the freedom fighters as to be that. These people who are fighting for independence, like Palestine, best example, or the separatists of Kashmir. But on the other hand, they want to include these people who are involved in the name of, say, humanitarian intervention or military thing. So they want to include that definition. All right. So this is what. So in India's case also, the case of Burhan Wani, you know that? Who is Burhan Wani? Burhan Wani is nothing. He is nothing but he was a commander. He was the commander of an organization called Hizbul Mujahideen. He was the commander of Hizbul Mujahideen. For few Kashmiri people, he is a freedom fighter. He wants to liberate Kashmir. But for India, he is a terrorist. Banned organization. That is what. All right. So that is what. But still, like you see, like no, I used to, like previous classes, I used to like make a comparison on all. But right now, like we don't have time to for such a discussions and all, like whether because equating Burhan Wani with Bhagat Singh and all, like we used to have discussions, but right now we don't want to have it. We'll keep it as crisp and short as possible. This is what. So this is what, there is a lack of consensus because one set of people, they want to include military forces as a part of definition, but not the action of freedom fighters, whereas other people on the other side. This is what. Okay, you read like China considers Dalai Lama as a terrorist. Maybe instigating that. That depends on the definition of it. That depends on the definition. All right, I don't know about the Chinese law. All right, so maybe I can't comment on that, Magesh, but maybe like I'll see that, like if at all they consider Dalai Lama to be terrorist, like what else we can do for Chinese, like what they're doing it on Uyghurs, the Hong Kong people and all. All right, fine. This is what. So as per today, like this is what the definition part we have it. Okay. So next we have to differentiate the crimes. All right. So next we are going to differentiate how terrorism is different from other crimes. So next we are going to see the second one, the second topic, like how terrorism is different from other crimes. How terrorism is different from other crimes. You see, there is a possibility that a separatist, so people asking from the first class, like what is the difference between a separatist and terrorist? What is the difference between an insurgent and a terrorist? What is the difference between an extremist and a terrorist? You see, all these people can become terrorists. All these people can become a terrorist. Who is a separatist? Example, Lashkar-e-Toiba is a separatist who wants to separate Kashmir from India. Who is an insurgent? Maoists are insurgent. Within India, they don't want to separate, but they want to control the government in a violent manner. Who is an extremist? Anyone who wants radical change. It may be for smaller reasons, not with the political goals. But who is a terrorist? Like, you see, all these people, they involve in violence. But terrorists, they involve in the most brutal form. Unlike the separatists, like you see, mostly they'll kill maybe those people who are resisting, maybe the armed forces. Similarly, the insurgent groups also. But when these insurgent groups become terrorists means when they kill the innocent people, when they involve the most brutal form of violence. All right, that is what. All right, so this is what. So when they started killing the innocent people for their political cause. So ultimately, what is the meaning of this political? Ultimately, the meaning is terrorism. They want power. They want sovereign. Best example, IS. IS people, they can kill anybody. They're fighting in the name of religion. They want a caliphate, Islamic caliphate, but they kill the Islamist people. Understand? This is what. They don't mind it. They don't mind anybody. Shia, Sunni, Muslims, no matter. Hindus or anyhow, Hindus are not there, but majority I'm speaking about. Jews, Christians, whoever it is. Alright. Take the case of Taliban also. They fight in the name of religion. They wanted to establish a caliphate, but they kill their own people for following that. That is what called as terrorists. So, and separatists, they become terrorists, and insurgents also may become terrorists and extremists. I hope you understood right now. So, this one, Paul, like, so I was about to say that, like, today something different thing happens, like today LOC, right? So today is one good news, like it's about like LOC. There is a ceasefire agreement, like India and Pakistan, they have made a joint statement today. So they have to follow whatever they agreed in 2003. But I don't think so how far it is going to work out, like, because you see it's kind of an you can say kind of a New Year resolution. What we have a New Year resolution, right? We have it, but we don't follow it. Even before this, so many times we had such agreements, but I don't know how far it has worked, but hopefully we pray at least in future, because it was expected last month, like after Bajwa, he toned down very much related to Kashmir. It was expected, but we'll wait and see what happens. If this continues, that is a good sign really, because General Bajwa was mentioning about like Kashmir issue also. We'll wait that. All right, fine, we'll wait and watch what happens. See, extremists are any people. Extremists are those people who involve in violence for smaller issues also. They're not specifically about against the government. Extremists, or it can be any people. Understand? Extremists can be people who involve in violence for anything. But insurgency specific terms are given. That is what. All right, fine. Okay, next one. In order to know the differences, like I like to give the example of the modus operandi. So when you get to know the modus operandi, you'll have a better idea also. So what is the modus operandi? Please write it down. So if you look at the mode of operation or the modus operandi of the terrorists, you'll get again even more fair idea. So the modus operandi is Khalistanis are separatists. Very good. But not every Khalistan is a terrorist. Khalistan Liberation Force is a terrorist organization. There are Naga insurgent groups, but not every Naga insurgent groups are banned. NSCN-K is banned. Why? They involve in violence. Understand? They are terrorist organizations. So that is the difference, people. Fine. So the modus operandi is, first of all, there is violence. Thereafter, they seek publicity. Why publicity? So as to create fear in the minds of the people. And finally, they will convince the people. These are the four terms. Violence, publicity, fear, convince. I'll give an example. So who did attack in Easter? That is Easter attack in Sri Lanka. It was IS. ISIS came forward and said, yes, we did it. They used to show that, like, they used to behead the videos, like, they used to show the beheaded videos also, how cruel they are. Who did Pulwama attack? Jaish-e-Mohammed. They released the video on their own. Yes, we did the attack, Fidain attack. That is what. Unlike the other people, unlike the other set of things, mostly the terrorist people, they involved in the violence, the most brutal form of violence. You must have seen these beheading videos of IS, the most cruel form. Now this violence along with that publicity, immediately they will seek publicity. No need for the investigating agencies to find out. No evidence. They'll come forward and say. Why do they say that? Because they do publicity so as to create fear in the minds of the people. You know, a lot of people, they're kind of fascinated by the kind of, oh, they have shown and they have did it what they said. They have said they'll do that and they have did it. So that is the reason why a lot of misguided youth, they join that. So by creating fear in the minds of the people, thereby they convince what? They convince that the state is powerless. No, you see what I did? Now there is the state is no powerless. One day I will govern the entire world. You see why ISIS has gained a lot of people all across the world? Because you see, like one day it is going to be in caliphate all throughout the world, because they already occupied Iraq and Syria. They've got in made ingrounds in a lot of other states, and that is the reason why I want to be part of that power. So this is what the differentiating factor is. Terrorists never hide anything. They will tell, yes, we did it, what you want, like you got to release it. Be it Boko Haram, be it Al-Shabaab, Taliban. Have they ever denied anything? No, they haven't. They will say, yes, we did it. Because yes, we did it deliberately. That is what. So this is what the mode of operation which separates or which differentiates other set of crimes. Understood now, people, like what exactly the difference between other things. Fine. This is what. Okay, the next one. The next one we are going to see the causes of. Next one we are going to see the causes of terrorism. What are the causes of terrorism? So what are the causes of terrorism? Number one, we are going to see two things. One is general causes or generic causes and the specific causes. All right, the generic as well as specific causes. So first of all, we see what is the generic cause. The generic causes means you have to understand that every organization, terrorist organization, initially they have a dislike towards a society, after which they wanted a change in the society. That change they wanted through deliberation, that is talks. And when deliberation fails, they wanted a change which could be possible by coercion, that is by force, which could be possible only through violence. Understand? So there is a dislike in the society for which they wanted a change. That change they wanted through talks, deliberation. But when this deliberation failed, they go for coercion. Coercion could happen through violence. I'll give you a best example. LTTE, the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam, considered to be a terrorist organization. If you look into the history, how they were kind of terrorist organization, what is the justification they gave? You see that, like, first of all, there was a lot of problem between ethnic Sri Lankans as well as ethnic Tamils. Priority was given to Sinhalese. There was Sinhalese only act and all. Some of the rights of Tamilians, ethnic Tamilians, was stripped away. And now there was a lot of movement, moderate people who wanted a change. But it was not so fruitful. The kind of the petitions or the moderate way of thing, equality could not be possible. That is when extremist organizations like LTT came into the picture, say that, like, now no more talks. Now you cannot change the society by talks. You cannot expect the Sri Lankan government to give equality to the Sri Lankan Tamils through political negotiations. The only way is what? Violence. So you will coerce the Sinhalese as well as the government to change. So that is what they took violence as a path. You know, ultimately they kill most of the moderates as well as other extremists who don't agree with them. All right. So this is one thing. Like, so basically this is what. Similarly, Islamic Caliphate also. All right. Basically they wanted to have control over the, you can say ISIS wanted to have control over the Iraq region, Syria region. But when this control was given to the Shia Muslims, they were kind of angry, and that is what started it. This is basically what. These are the generic causes. So there is a dislike where the change is not possible. They kind of go for violence. But more than the generic cause, you have to find out the specific causes. What are the specific issues? Among the specific issues, the first important thing is socio-religious, number one. The first important one is socio-economic and political injustice. I'm sorry, no, did I say about religious? Not first. We'll discuss about religious secondly. The first one is socio-political and economic injustice. All three linked with each other. All three linked with each other. So what does this socio-economic political injustice means? Take the case of, again, what I said about LTTE, the same thing. Or take the case of, I said in LTTE it is more about the political injustice, their political rights, civil rights basically. All right, with respect to language, giving preference to Sinhalese, all those things. And maybe you can give example with respect to, say, CPI Maoist. So even though there is a lot of differences with respect to their ideology today, but the way it started it is basically basically on economic aspect, lack of development, socio-economic factor. Fine. So mostly it is a socio-political economic injustice, inequality. This is the major reason. And the second one is the religious beliefs. These are some of the examples. And the second one is the religious beliefs. So under the religious beliefs, you see, in the name of religion, they used to do that. In the name of religion. All right. So we'll see that religious thing in a short while. Like we'll discuss about this religious terrorism also. All right. So based on the religion, and third is ideology, based on the ideology also. Based on the ideology. In ideology, example, based on the race, say based on protecting the ecology, even based on animal rights also. What are these things? These things are kind of documented. An animal right activist can become a terrorist. Ecology people in the name of protection of environment also, they become terrorists. Meaning what? Like people speaking about protection of environment, like you keep on polluting the rivers and other things. Suddenly what? No, there is no point in speaking. You can't change. Now I'll put maybe a blast a bomb so that like at least then you'll change. That is what. So people based on a specific ideology, in order to implement that, they go for extremist versions. Understand? This is what. So it may be based on race also. Like I'll give you an example. What happened in the Christchurch? I guess I mentioned about the Christchurch attack, right? So Christchurch attack, what happens? So one person in New Zealand, Christchurch is a place in New Zealand, he randomly went into a church and shoot everyone who was offering namaz in a mosque actually. What he said, no, he is against those people who are settling in New Zealand. He don't want outsiders. He is a white supremacist, like he is a white racist basically. He don't want non-white people. Understand? So that is what, like ecological base means people who are involved in, say, clearing of forest. Like it had these things were recorded in USA and all. Few people, like, no, he went and like fired those godowns like used for lumbering in these things. All right, this is what. Okay, one more doubt, like, is Veerappan a terrorist? That is a tricky question here. Veerappan is not a terrorist. Technically speaking, Veerappan is not a terrorist because, like, right now, like, because if I answer this question, like, I'll be again, no, you want me to put it in a kind of an okay, I'll come to those questions. Like, no, let us not discuss about Veerappan right now or other people. Like, again, see, I got a lot of other questions also. So Veerappan is not a terrorist. He's not. See, first of all, like, you get to know that, like, only last year India has this concept of including individuals as terrorists. Previously, only organizations could be. Understand? Paul, like, this is what, like, previously only organizations could be designated as terrorists, not individuals. So Veerappan, when he was alive, he never had such organizations, and even considerably, he is a kind of an, you can say, a kind of a smuggler. All right, a kind of an, you can say, murderer. He cannot be. He is not a terrorist because basically, if you want to be a terrorist, actually speaking about it, so he should have this ambition of later on creating a sovereign state or maybe a control. So even when I speak about these things and all, Ultimately, they wanted to control, they want to eliminate others so that they wanted to control this to be supreme. That is what. Say, the take of ecology. I don't want anyone who's against the environment to be alive. So I don't want anyone who is disrespecting the rights of animals, mistreatment of animals. This is what. All right. Bindranwale founder is a terrorist actually. I said terrorist means he is part of a terrorist organization. That is what. All right. So we'll see that the individuals, all right. We'll see how individuals are included in that. Fine. These are the things. Now we'll see the types of it. Now we'll see the types of terrorism. Next. What are the types of terrorism? The causes we have seen, now we'll see the types of terrorism. Number one is, under the types of terrorism, ethno-nationalist terrorism. Right on? Ethno-nationalist terrorism. So, number one is ethno-nationalist terrorism. Ethno-nationalist terrorism means those people who are fighting for a separate country. Based on ethnicity, they are demanding for a sovereign nation. Alright. Example, LTTE. LTTE wanted a separate country for Tamil people. That is called as what? Elam. Tamil Elam. NSCN. NSCNK, they wanted a separate country for Nagas, which is called as what? Greater Nagaland. This is one example. This is one example. If individuals are not considered to be a terrorist, how POTA will work? POTA is not there, people will consider that like POTA is repealed, we'll see that. But right now individuals can be designated, we'll see. Wait, have some patience, we have to see the UAP amendment also. All right, this is one thing, example. And the next is the case of religious terrorism. Next is religious terrorism. Okay, so I have to add just a minute, people. Okay, next is the case of religious terrorism. Please write down. So religious terrorism means so you're considering terrorism to be a sacramental act. All right. So you consider terrorists to be in what? You consider violence as a divine duty. So I'm just fighting. They call it as jihad, right? So what is the meaning of it? Like, no, they considered violence as a divine duty, or you can say a sacramental act, a sacred. So God has ordered me to involve in violence. So all those things, you see, look at the kind of religious terrorism. Mostly, it's based on like the case of ISI is also. It's basically because of misinterpretation. You see, misinterpretation of the religious text. It's all because of what? You can say the insane or misinterpretation, insane interpretation of religious text. All right. So they used to say that like, no, fine. ISIS people, they said like, no, if you want to establish a caliphate, no, you have to kill the people by which only you can become. All right. So in the name of God, like you see the case of like in India, Hinduism caste system, if you look into that, like, no, they always put like the blame of like Manusmriti. They wish to interpret on their own way. But how many of us, first of all, follow Manusmriti? You go and ask in your home, like how many of the people knows about Manusmriti? Whether they know it or not, but they still follow it actually. So the caste system is there. No one is going to disagree with that. But the thing is that if you let any specific group to interpret a religious text, they will do their own favor only. Understand? You see a lot of things like in India, take the caste system, they always put the blame on the religious sects because they used to interpret in such a manner. Similarly, they used to kind of like tweak, interpret in their own way, be it Bible, be it Quran, be it any religious text in India, Hinduism also. Understand? So the way in which they demean it. Understand? So no religion has spoken about misdeeds. Every religion speaks about good things only. But some people, for their benefit, they used to misinterpret that. That is the biggest reason for religious terrorism. All right, this is one thing. And the third one is, right on, and the third one is ideology-oriented terrorism. Ideology-oriented terrorism. So in the case of ideology-oriented terrorism, you have two things. One is right wing and another is left wing. All right. So right wing and left wing. So we have seen the examples. All right. So right wing terrorists, recent, the Christchurch attack. And the left wing, you can say in India it is the CPI Maoist. All right. So in India there are right wing organizations. Antifa also. All right. So how come you know about Antifa and other things like, okay, fine. Antifa movement. They're also there. Like you can start from these things like this one like so in the case of right wing, you can even mention about the act of terrorist also. Fine. All right. So in the case of Antifa is kind of like you can't tell exactly to be a terrorist act again. Like no, see that the Antifa movement is, there are people who are linked with terrorism, but again I said no. Why Hitler is not a terrorist? I said no, he's a terrorist only. I said he's a right wing terrorist. Hitler is a right wing terrorist. I said no. Antifa movement again, like no, that is kind of debatable. All right, fine. This is what. Okay, next one, ideology based terrorism, and the next one is, and the last thing is narco terrorism. All right, narco terrorism. It's a terrorism around drugs. Actually, this is related to drug mafia. All right. So to have a control over the drug, this is called as narco terrorism. And next is state sponsored terrorism. Now, what is state sponsored terrorism? The best example is Pakistan, China, and all. All right, these are called as what? State sponsored terrorist. All right. So state sponsored terrorism means where the state includes terrorism. The state includes terrorism as a deliberate instrument of foreign policy, as a deliberate instrument of foreign policy to achieve its objectives. So why we call it as state sponsored? You see, during the time of the first Kargil War, 1947-48, 48-49, what they had done. You see, the tribal people were supported by the Pakistani army. Similarly, recently also, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba, they have their base in Pakistan. So right now also they are sponsoring. So they are sponsoring through ISI. They are sponsoring through army also indirectly. So that is what called as state-sponsored terrorism. That is called as what? State-sponsored terrorism. So Hitler belongs to Socialist Party. Then why he is a rightist? Like anyone who is against outsiders, again he's a right-wing people, right? Basically right-wing people are conservatives. They want to kind of conserve the society. They wanted to maintain the status quo. They considered others to be outsiders. Fine, that is what. All right, this is what. These are called as, we can say, state-sponsored terrorism. Example of Pakistan. Fine. So this is with respect to terrorism. Now, next thing we are going to see is this concept of how to deal with state and non-state actors. Right now, we are going to deal with how to deal the state and non-state actors. How to deal with the state actors, because there is a topic called state actors and non-state actors, right? So since we discussed about state-sponsored terrorism, it is pertinent to find out the difference between state actors and non-state actors. So who is a state actor? I said like state actors are who belongs to state, who are creating troubles. Non-state actors are those people who don't represent a state. I even give an example, the example of state actors like ISI, non-state actors, all other terrorist organizations, Islamic State, ISIS. All right, ISIS, NSCN. All right, Boko Haram, Taliban, all these people, these are non-state actors. Now, why there is a need to differentiate these two people? Because even though both the people, they created trouble, the way in which we have to counter state actors, it is very different from non-state actors. See, if state actors involves in a war or a terrorist activity, we don't involve in war directly. We used to give pressure in the international fora. Is it not? We used to go to UN Security Council. We used to go and then involve USA, Russia, all those countries. You see, Pakistan is doing this thing. You have to stop them. If not, we'll wage a war. All right, this is what. So, even though state actors and non-state actors, they create same trouble, but the way in which we have to tackle is very different. Understand? That is what. So, in the state of non-state actors only, we coin different terms. What are the terms we have coined it? For instance, we have what is called as surgical strike. We have recently undertook what is called as a preemptive non-military action. Preemptive non-military action. Now, what is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of this surgical strike? So, surgical strike basically means what? You are attacking the specific site which is used as a kind of base, all right, which is used to attack India. So surgical strike is nothing but a precise attack on a specific organization and its camp without affecting others. So that's called a surgical strike, specifically attacking an organization. So what we did, NSCN camps in Myanmar, Jaish-e-Mohammed camps in Pakistan after the Uri attack. This is after the Chandel attack. But we now differentiate different terms. Now we have evolved. So instead of using surgical strike, now we are using the terms like, so the example for surgical strike, I can give the examples like 2015 attack. 2015, it was attack on NSCN camps, NSCN-K camps in Myanmar. It is Jaish-e-Mohammed camps in Pakistan. Now the preemptive non-military action we used in the year 2019 after the Pulwama attack. The Balakot, what is called airstrike. If you look into that, the government of India coined this term, preemptive non-military action. They never termed it as a retaliatory action. They never mentioned it as an airstrike. What they said, it is an preemptive non-military action. Why does they made it as preemptive non-military action? The reason is, what is the meaning of preemptive? Preemptive means as a matter of prevention, in anticipation. You see, the global war on terror, America in 2001, after Taliban, sorry, not Taliban, after Al-Qaeda attacked the Twin Towers, so what they did, they waged a war against terror, which they called as global war on terror. They waged a war which is called as what? Global war on terror. So they thought like, okay, so since there is no democracy in Afghanistan, They need to install democracy. So since Afghanistan was under the control of Taliban, that is the reason why Al-Qaeda was developing in Afghanistan. So similarly, what they did, so they wanted to install democracy in all those countries, Iraq, Libya, where there is dictatorship, not terrorists basically, but dictatorship. So they attacked Afghanistan, they attacked Iraq, they attacked you can say Libya in anticipation. These are called as what? Preemptive attacks. So in international, here it is also India, it is called as preemptive attack because it is a matter of prevention. It is a matter of an anticipation. It is not a retaliation. It is not what? It is not retaliation. It is not a revenge, people. It is in anticipation. It is in anticipation. Why in anticipation? Because why it is called as a preemptive action? Because India has gotten evidence that Jaish-e-Mohammed is training its people to carry out further Fidayeen attacks. Jaish-e-Mohammed has planned in future. It has already committed this Fidayeen. What is the meaning of Fidayeen? Means suicide attack. So Fidayeen is a term which is used for this suicide actually. Suicide bombing. Sacrifice. Fidayeen attack. So I said it's not in retaliation. It is not for the Pulwama attack. So even though before I mentioned after Pulwama the Balakot thing happened, but this is not in retaliation. This is what? A preemptive action. So in future, Jaish-e-Mohammed has planned to attack such future Fidayeen attacks. We have got the evidence, and that is the reason why to stop that from happening, we are attacking the camps which is located in Balakot. Understand? All right. So, okay, hot pursuit, I'll come to that. Don't worry, people. I'll come in a short while. All right. So, this is what preemptive action. Now, what is the meaning of preemptive non-military action? So, what is the meaning of this non-military action? Non-military action means who is the target? The target is the camp of Jaish-e-Mohammed, where, and the target is not Pakistani military. It is nowhere the Pakistani army, I mean Pakistani military. It is targeted towards whom? The camp of Jaish-e-Mohammed alone. We ensured no civilian casualties. We ensured no military casualties also. Only the target were the terrorist camps. And that is the reason why it is called as a non-military action. That is the reason why it is called as what? A non-military action. All right. So had it been an attack on Pakistan, every other country, definitely China would have come in the first. But no country could condemn it. The moment this happened, like we went and spoke to all those ambassadors, high commissioners here in India, they were kind of happy. Okay, this is the target on Jaish-e-Mohammed, not about Pakistan. Pakistan also couldn't do anything. You see what happened after that. So that is the reason why I said like the way in which we have to counter terrorism of state actors is very different from non-state actors. Fine? Understood? We coined different terms. Now coming to this concept of hot pursuit. So what is hot pursuit? See, I said surgical strike is something like inflicting a damage on a specific target. All right, the camps. Now, what is hot pursuit? I'll give the example. See, in the case of 2015, the surgical strike, this is India, this is Myanmar. And now NSCN K, they attacked the Indian army. And they go hide in the camps in Myanmar. So now what Indian army does? Indian army follows these people, crossing the borders and then killing them. Now generally speaking, if you are crossing the borders, you need to get the permission, right? Here You did not get it. Why? Because there is a concept in international law. In international law, the concept of hot pursuit, it is there with respect to international law, with respect to law of seas. So if at all in Indian territorial waters, if someone has committed a crime, so we can chase those people from the Indian waters even towards the other countries also. Even towards the other countries, and then we can attack. This is basically under the law of seas. This is applicable in land also exceptionally. But the thing is that, like, it happened in 2015. It happened in 2015. India attacked Myanmar and the camps actually. But the thing is that it was not outrightly accepted by India. Because if India outrightly accepts it, what? It will be answerable to Myanmar. So still there is a cloud of confusion. There is no official information given about hot pursuit. It was in the newspapers and few people from the ministry, they mentioned about it. But there is no official confirmation, because if there is an official confirmation, what will happen? Myanmar will go to the courts also. So it is a kind of an, you can say, insult to their sovereignty. But what happened? Myanmar, they have taken it in a friendly nature. So it's a kind of a, you can say, an arrangement wherein, like, no, you don't tell it to the outside world that I have entered into Myanmar and then done this act, because it is an insult to me. You enter into my country and then destroy the camps. It is kind of insult to me. Don't do it publicly. But indirectly, what it means actually, if it is legally speaking, it is not correct actually. Legally, it is not a correct one. But since we asked in UPSC, I am discussing these things. Understand? Still, I am saying that hot pursuit means following into someone's territory and then nabbing the criminals or the terrorists. This is what hot pursuit. Hot pursuit. Following. Pursuit means what? Hot pursuit. Following from your territory because you have got it insulted and then to the neighbor's territory. That is called as hot pursuit. And this is not problematic because right. So video not visible for 10 minutes means you are supposed to mention it, right? Maybe only one person, like maybe you can get it a recorded version if you wanted. Fine. Okay, fine. This is what with respect to hot pursuits, so you are following it. I'm saying that technically India has never admitted such a statement, but it was in the newspapers. That is the reason why UPSC asked it. That is it. Fine. Not many people, like in that year I also wrote it, but since I being a law student, I wrote it because I know something about hot pursuit. But lot many people never know that hot pursuit because it was not much covered actually. Fine. So this is about thing, like we'll wind up with this today. So what we've seen today is, so I'll answer your doubts after this recapping. All right. So what we've seen today is money laundering. So money laundering, we have seen the definition of money laundering within the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So what is basically, if you have any illegal source of money, if you are possessing it, if you are concealing it, if you are acquiring something, if you are claiming it is to be untainted property, that is an offense. So money laundering has three processes: placement, layering, integration. Placement means you're placing into the financial system. Layering, the purpose is distancing the origin. And integration is you're bringing back that money which is placed, which is laid into your own thing. That is integration. And the steps, techniques involved, we have seen what is smurfing, what is hawala, what is offshore banking, what is shell companies, what is tax havens. And after that, we have seen the consequences of money laundering with respect to society, with respect to business, that is, economy, with respect to society, with respect to politics, with respect to security also. And we have seen the measures. First, we have seen the institutional mechanisms, FIU as well as ED also. And the difference is intelligence. One is FIU is intelligence, ED is about prosecution as well as investigative agency. And with respect to the legislative mechanisms, we have seen PMLA Act, Fugitive Economic Offenders Act, the Binami Act, and the black money imposition of this undisclosed foreign income act. All right. So these things we have seen. And apart from that, like we have seen the executive mechanisms like Project Insight, demonetization, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, income declaration scheme, etc. So all these things were partially successful only. And next we have seen that what are the international institution mechanisms. It may be bilateral, it may be multilateral. Multilateral institution mechanisms include FATF and Egmont Group, whereas in the case of bilateral, we spoke about a lot of things: TAEAs, AEIOs, MLATs, extradition and all. Alright, so these are things with respect to money laundering. And I said, like, money laundering, you have to discuss about FATF, very much important. Please follow it. And next to that, like we have started with terrorism. First of all, we have defined terrorism under the UAP Act. Any act which is against the sovereignty, security, unity and integrity of India, that is against the country. So that is a terrorist act. Terrorist act defined under section 15. Even terrorist funding, people who are funding, வெயிட் பண்ணுங்க, முடிச்சிடலாம். அதுக்கு என்ன பண்ணுறது, ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் வெயிட் பண்ணுங்க, 5 minutes வெயிட் பண்ணுங்க. So terrorist act, even a funding is also a terrorist act. All right, so even a funding is also a terrorist act. So you have to know this thing. Go home and find it out. And after this one, like terrorist act, the definition of terrorism. So we have seen there is a lack of consensus, and after this lack of consensus, we have seen the how terrorism is different from other crimes based on the modus of operandi, and we have seen the generic causes, how they create fear, then how do they create violence, publicize fear and convince the people, and specific causes, socio-political, economic injustice. It may be based on the religious beliefs, it may be because of their ideological beliefs. And thereafter, like we have seen the types of terrorism also, ethno-nationalist terrorism, and based on narco-terrorism, state-sponsored terrorism, religious terrorism, ideology-oriented terrorism. And after which we have seen the role of state actors and non-state actors. In that case, like the way in which we have to treat state actors is very different from non-state actors. Fine, so that is it. Fine, I'll answer your doubts. So definition of hot pursuit, you see there is no such definition, people. I said, like, see, hot pursuit they've asked once before, and definitely they're not going to ask in future UPSC. You just understand it. See, hot pursuit means you're kind of following the enemy from your territory to the neighboring territory. That is what, understand it. Hot pursuit, pursuit means follow. You're following the enemy from your territory to other territory, and then you're kind of navigating them. That is what is the international law you said about UNCLOS? UNCLOS means like United Nations Convention on Law of Seas. United Nations Convention of Law of Seas. With respect to state actors, that is what, like, with respect to state actors, what you're supposed to do? With respect to state actors, all right, with respect to state actors, it's very different, like, because we have to go for diplomatic, cut off the economic ties, cut off the diplomatic ties, put international pressure, go to UN Security Council. There are a lot of ways in which you can deal it. All right, so that is part of international law. All right, why Khalistan movement started in 1970-80 certainly, because that is something no, that is a very detailed one, people, like Paul, like we'll discuss that later on maybe. All right. So how China supports state-sponsored terrorism means, like, no, what Uyghur, the example of Uyghur Muslims, that is what. No, I don't mean hot pursuit is wrong. According to United Nations Convention of Law Seas, so hot pursuit is not, I'm saying that it's not wrong. It is kind of acceptable. All right, so hot pursuit, maybe next class again I'll discuss, like maybe like you have my mail ID, right? You have my mail ID, right? You just write a mail to me. I'll just send you links and all. All right. Don't worry. No, too much of things is not required here with respect to internal security. All right. Bhagat Singh terrorist or not? Bhagat Singh is not a terrorist. He is a freedom fighter only. No, if you term Bhagat Singh to be a fighter, the terrorist, like you won't be getting service. But frankly speaking, because see, what they fought is not for separatism. Actually, they are kind of like Bhagat Singh fought against imperialism. All right. So British, they occupied illegally, but what India with respect to Kashmir, it's not an illegal occupation. We have the legal instrument of succession. Sorry. All right, okay, fine. யாருமே இல்லையாப்பா அப்போ சரி விடுங்க. Okay, fine. That is what Bhagat Singh thing. All right, people, like, no, see, it's time to close the academy. So what is, if at all you have any doubts, please do text me, please do mail me. All right, we'll meet after that. All right, so have a great weekend, happy weekend, enjoy, stay safe, take care. All right, so do let me know that any doubts if you have. All right, we'll sign off. Thank you people, thank you everyone.